This episode is brought to you by DS Business Solutions.
Messi. Messi. Oh my goodness. Balotelli. Aguero. That is extraordinary. What a headshot. What a hit. Back of the net.
Hello, and welcome to 22 Degree Dublin. Yes, that is the dedication that we have to this podcast, that we are in the cave recording when we are having our summer. The league may be over, the relegations may be done, but we are still here. Boys, how are we? How are we doing?
I am good. Sunderland are not doing great, which isn't good. But we're coming up to the playoffs. We will be fine. I think they're actually doing warm weather training at the minute, which is good. Very excited to see how the playoffs will go. As I said, I'd love to see them back in the Premier League. I don't know if we're ready for the Premier League, especially considering the relegation father of this season. So
I would like to see us up. I won't lie. I'd like to get
just
a
for
win
the
on the
derby.
sheet. Yeah,
just
nice.
the derby would be great.
How are you, my friend?
I am good. United have secured safety in the Premier League now that all the teams are gone down. So, I am chilling, although we are still unbeaten in Europe, so we go again tomorrow.
How are you feeling about it?
Good, yeah. I feel like we've performed well against Spanish teams as of late. So hopefully we get another win and look forward to Bodo Glimt beating Spurs. So
you really have to look at this. A potential Europa League final of Spurs versus United as the desperation derby, and I'm not even being bad when I say that. I don't know who needs it more.
I mean, one of us are getting out with more trophies than Arsenal this season, so I suppose.
Do you think
He's kind of buried the lead there, lads? Like Bodo Glimt are this far. Like,
I mean, it's great to see. You love to see it, you know.
Do you know where they physically are? They're practically in the North Pole. Like, they are on AstroTurf because the weather is so bad for 90% of the year that they can't actually have a normal pitch. They have a population of 4 lads and a chicken. Like, this is incredible. Like, I don't know why people aren't in the streets talking about this. Like, if they get to this final, never mind about winning it, it will be an immense achievement, borderline as big as Leicester winning the Premier League. And for punctuation fans, no team has ever won a European title that has a punctuation in their name, let alone a bloody slash. It's going to be incredible.
They make Villarreal look like the metropolis in size in comparison. You do love to see those small clubs making a push. And I think you're right. I think, to be honest, so much chat has been around, can this win save Ange's job? Obviously United in the picture, that they really haven't, I suppose, given the airtime to how big an achievement it is.
Oh, absolutely. Like, they are a tiny team, and yeah, it's the Europa League or whatever, but like, still, this for Norway alone is incredible. Like, it's been a while since we've seen any kind of exports from the Norwegian league. Really,
outside Molde, Norwegian, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like actual, like, Molde, they've always been in Europe, but they've never done anything there, you know? Like,
yeah,
they're
that kind of team, I suppose. If whether it's Football Manager or FIFA, or if you ask the man on the street to name a Norwegian football team, you're probably getting that, and maybe because of Ollie, maybe because of.
I was literally just going to say,
take out Molde though, and I don't know who you're getting, but boys, do you think, obviously, Nate, you're going to be sitting there with your red lenses on, and I don't knock you for it. Going into that game, do you see United winning that? Because, I mean, you've showed some signs this year of fight. I think the game against Lyon, was it? That was the 5-4 in the end. I think that's as much as I've seen United fight, as much as he threw the game away. But would you be worried about Spurs?
We've lost Nate. He is so afraid of Spurs that he can't even speak.
The thing with Spurs is I think they're looking ahead at us when I think they really need to be looking at Bodo Glimt. Spurs are the type of team to lose in a semi-final to them, and in terms of us against Bilbao, I'm not very worried, just purely because we're unbeaten in Europe this season. So let's continue it.
Do you think, like, obviously we know Amarin's job is safe through next year, regardless of how this season's gone. Even though I don't think if you'd said it to the Avengers, that is that boardroom, where he'd be, would they have taken him? No, but obviously, if Spurs don't get through the semis, I think that's Ange gone. Personally, I don't know about you boys, but either way, do you think if he even wins the cup, he's getting the boot in the summer?
I think if he wins the cup, I think they can't sack him, but I think it'd be a Ten Hag situation of dead man walking.
Fishing around for someone else, and if you can't, you keep on to him for as long as you need to.
Exactly, yeah. Just because like it's not often they win anything, the fans will be back on side. If he doesn't, I would be surprised if he gets back to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium before they sack him. Like I would say he'd be told, "Don't get on the bus."
I think if he loses that semi, having had the year that they've had, making the promises of trophy in his second year, I think he could walk. I think he's that kind of guy.
I mean,
It'd be good for him.
This is the Spurs team that sacked Mourinho like a couple of days before final. Like,
they don't care. Yeah,
really real anything out. Like that was probably their biggest chance of ever winning a trophy. I think what Ange is like, listen, I don't think he's ever filled me with confidence. Like from the outside looking in, I don't really think he's connected with that fan base, and I don't think anyone would be sad to see him go. Personally,
I think I mean, all it takes is going back maybe, I don't know, 40 episodes on this podcast, and our thumbnails were singing the praises of Ange Ball. He's someone I wanted to work out. In his first season, I really enjoyed his character. I don't know about you boys though. To me, the way he is with the media, his abrasiveness, his charm of, it's been akin to, I liked Mike Ashley in the beginning, and we know where that went, and I don't want to compare the two, but you know what I'm saying, in the fact that it appeared as one thing and kind of developed as another.
I could see him doing an Emery on it, kind of
Popping
not
up somewhere
working
else
out.
and getting his right spot.
Yeah, just a little bit smaller, kind of. See, Tottenham are kind of, they've kind of become like Newcastle, having these great expectations with no actual history to justify it.
That was nicely woven in there, my friend.
But like, genuinely, the fact that like, yes, they got to a Champions League final. Yes, they have come close twice to getting a Premier League, but they've failed at every opportunity that has been given to them. So like, they're starting to have these expectations because Poch turned them into a team that was worth watching, and since then they've been borderline basket cases that have been bridesmaids. And with the way it all seems structured, fans, players, board, they look like they'll never be that bride.
Well, in work, out of a team of about 15 people, there's 3 Spurs fans, which is an abnormal amount, and I think all of them would agree with you in that regard. That I do think the fan love is turning, and I don't even think it's down to the league position. Obviously that has a massive effect on it, but stylistically, they're entertaining to watch when you're not a Spurs fan.
Are they though? Like.
I mean, as in terms of, they're so out of control that their games are exciting because they can't control them.
Like, just not to dwell on them, but like going back to Ten Hag for a second, like that guy was hounded by the media, and I feel like Ange has got somewhat of a free ride. Like in comparison, I don't think they've been out for his blood anywhere near as much as they were with Ten Hag, and to be honest, the results have been even worse. So
I don't disagree with you, and I think that really does show, I suppose, where Spurs are as a club compared to Man United. Man United that job is like being a prime minister. Not that Spurs are a small club by any means, but compared to United, they are.
100%. And I think like, if I was a European club, I don't think Ange would be on my list. And I've made it clear I haven't been an Ange fan from the start, so you can say
Day one hater.
literally. But yeah, he wouldn't be on my list if I was a top European club.
And what was your hate with Ange in the beginning? Like obviously we know now, but like I think myself and Killian definitely got swept up in the vibes of him.
I just thought he was all talk from the beginning. I think that I made that quite clear at the start. Was he talked a lot and said a lot and really didn't back it up. He was probably one of the least smart people I've seen in the media. Um, how many claims did he make that he didn't back up? So yeah, he's not my cup of tea as a manager.
I
Well,
stand by him. I think you'll see him at like an Everton type team by January,
that
and
soon, do you think?
I don't think with Everton, but I think he'll be back pretty damn soon. Um, I'd love him to go to like a Bundesliga team. I think he'd be really, really good there. Maybe a La Liga, but like you could see West Ham going from
I
like if
think
they were to
he's
get rid of
headed for
Potter.
the Saudi league. That's where I think he's heading.
Oh
Oh,
no,
well,
no, no.
I could see him doing a six
Ego wise,
months.
he wouldn't do it.
I could see him doing it for the bag though.
I would quicker see him go back to be the national team boss of Australia.
One thing I did see during the week that surprised me a little bit was, forgive me now, boys, I can't remember who the player was, but one of his ex players was saying basically outside team meetings, didn't really say hi or bye to many players, and you know that was surprising to me. He to me, I didn't expect him to be the kind of Jose, do everything for his players type, but I didn't expect him to be a cold shoulder guy either. Or do you think that fits?
I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's cold shoulder as much as it is. He kind of has that that. We've all had a teacher like that. That's like, I'm here to do my job. Don't annoy me. Just let me do my job. You're adults. Just do your job. I think there's that kind of element to it.
A professionalism almost, a cold professionalism.
Yeah, and I think part of it, if I was looking from the outside looking in with absolutely no knowledge, I would assume that what he's probably tries to do is tries to have his coaching staff be the good guys and him be the bad cop. So like he can come in and he can crack the whip, but you
Yeah,
need to keep that kind of level of separation so you can still crack the whip, and then
a
let
la
your coaches
Fergie a
be the
bit. Obviously,
a
Fergie
little bit,
was a
yeah.
bit more with his players, but yeah, he kind of had his role, and he had to stay within the
Yeah,
parameters of that
yeah.
role.
You have your lane, I have mine, and uh, by me, maybe it's his way of trying to impose that kind of not awe, but that kind of authority on a team by kind of going, well, we can't even talk to him, but when he talks to me, I better well listen. You know?
Well, speaking of lanes, there is one team that have been in a lane of their own this year, and unfortunately for all who listen to this podcast and the posts themselves, that team is Liverpool. Boys, I know we've gone over this a million times. It's not been the best of years from a competitiveness point of view in the Premier League, from a showcasing apparently the best league in the world. But what did we think of their dismantling of Spurs and their overall performance this year?
Nate, I'll let you take this one first,
Um,
just so you can enjoy the Liverpool loving.
do you want my PR answer or my actual answer? Like,
Give me both.
Yes.
PR, congratulations, Liverpool. Yeah, you are above everyone this year. And then my real answer is it's probably the least competitive league in recent memory. Like literally, I think this season's been nothing short of embarrassing. I don't think the football's been good. I don't think the teams have been good. And if I'm the Premier League, I'm looking into why it is. Like, I don't understand it, how there's such a gap between the perceived tops, where the perceived top six were last season to this season. It's really baffling to me.
There's three letters that can just sum it all up. PSR, baby, PSR. And no, we're
Yeah.
not going down that rabbit hole, folks. Don't worry. I don't want to kick off a fight. Killian, what are you saying about this year? To me, I think none of us are massively positive about. Forget that it's Liverpool who won it. Congratulations, Liverpool. Pure answer, but I don't think it's as bad as Nate's making out, but he's not far wrong.
I can understand why Nate has the opinion he does, but first of all, congratulations to our boy Camilo, our Liverpool fan
Oh,
in
I
the
forgot
wings.
that. Congratulations,
Yeah.
pal.
And him after giving you the love for Newcastle's trophy. But like I know people are saying winning it at 80 points or shows the lack of quality or strength of the league. Do you know what the record is for the least amount of points for a winner in a Premier League season?
Uh,
75 by Man
wow.
United.
Well, do you remember the year?
97?
Okay, right.
I
So
think it
new
was
enough
the
in.
96, 97.
So early Premier League days.
Relatively, but it was well established at that stage. Like
75
it's
points. Wow. But like you
so
gotta
like
you gotta feel bad for the likes of Klopp though. Like he finished second with 97 and 98. Like
which I think rather than kind of using that to admonish where the league is now, I think we should now, in retrospect, look back and kind of just realize how ridiculous City was. I think it's more to the credit of City than it was the weakness of Liverpool, obviously. And I think that should be the same kind of thing should be applied here. Like I think it's been a very like I think other than like Southampton and kind of the teams that went down, there's no big six anymore. It's a Big Ten. Like
which is exciting
But
and
it's not. It's not the Big Ten. Like the gulf
it's the 10.
the gulf between it is crazy. Like we're going through a Premier League season where Manchester United is 15th and Tottenham are 17th. Like what's going on? Like I feel like we have to acknowledge that. Like it has been a really poor season. And
No. We're going through a season where Man United paid for the
Sins of
the
past. Yeah.
no, we're
exactly
not because so what's up with City this season? What's up with Chelsea this season? Like there's such a gap between Liverpool and the rest that it just like you can't not acknowledge that.
The City one, I
it's
think,
such
is
a bad.
easier to understand because they've been operating at such a high level, playing, so like even from obviously this is Barcelona and not City, but I saw today Lamine Yamal has had 100 games for Barcelona since 2023. Like you're talking that level of games where they have been perfect for years. And that's going to catch up on the body. Pep's also gone through some stuff in his personal life in the last 12 months. There's the charges hanging over them. I'm not even like PSR doesn't count to City. They just do what they want. But there's enough within that like it's been a tumultuous period. Spurs, you could argue was kicked off by Harry Kane's exit. They had a bounce off the back of it where people thought, oh, is the team better without Harry Kane? We now see they are definitely not. And they also had a manager who seems out of his depth. United is the one, like Killian said, though. I think it is sins of the past have caught up. And again, though, like you can take the off the field pieces as the major driver of this. There was such uncertainty there for a long time at Radcliffe and so much movement and, the ins and outs of director of footballs and
hesitating on sacking Ten Hag.
yeah, like I think to be honest, the more I say it out loud, it really seems that the teams that are struggling the most and finding themselves in situations that they can't believe they're in, it's mainly through off the field antics that have then bled to on the field antics. I don't know if you guys would agree.
And when you look at the Big Ten, like I was saying, there's a lot of teams doing things right, which is now giving us a much better spread of points, whereas there would have been
like Villa and Forest and
exactly
Brentford
Brighton,
and,
Fulham, even like
I think this Big Ten that you're hinting at is just
masking it.
I think it's a fancy way of saying that the league's been so mediocre this year. Like the point spread from third to ninth is 10 points. Like that's crazy. Like there's no consistency from any team. And to go back to what you're saying with what was it, United had the lowest points tally in 1997. If you pull up the table and look at it, from first to fifth, you're talking 14 points. From first to fourth, you're talking 7 points. Like a hugely more competitive league, and I think we're seeing that now. Is Liverpool are what they're like 15 points ahead of
Yeah.
Arsenal, 20 points ahead of Newcastle in third. Like I don't know. I think the viewing this season has been utterly terrible.
Yeah, like I also think one thing, if I go back in Nate's camp, is I don't have the stat, but I would love to see the stat of where Liverpool would be in the league if they didn't have Salah on the team sheet this year. And I know that's a low hanging fruit kind of stab at them, but that man came up in some clutch Michael Jordan moments this year. Like I don't know about you boys. I think he's gonna walk player of the year.
Oh,
Oh,
100%.
he
Like,
has to. He has to.
but like, I think, and I'll give Liverpool dues here is we're not saying Liverpool were bad. Liverpool were great this season and they deserve to be
And they
champions.
can only beat us in front of them.
I'm
Yeah.
just worried why the rest of the league were so mediocre. Like, and I think we can acknowledge both and go Liverpool deserved to win the league, yes, but there really was no competition this season.
But then I suppose being devil's advocate, right? Last week we talked, or was it the week before? We talked about how tight the championship is and how amazing that is. But yet, when we're talking about the Premier League and there's a similar closeness, we're saying it's gone to pot. You know,
The thing is though, like, and I think it's the big thing that the Premier League's lost this season, and you guys might disagree with me, but when you're going in and watching a Super Sunday every Sunday, it doesn't feel like a Super Sunday this season. Like, it really doesn't. It feels like, it doesn't feel like you're getting the caliber. It feels like any big team that Liverpool goes up against, it's a guaranteed win. Similarly with Arsenal, and then the rest is just a toss up. Like, to me, that's just not what the Premier League is and what the Premier League has been. Um,
as we look into next season, it's mental to think that a club as big as United or City or Spurs are going to be in a rebuild. But like I'm sure we'll touch on this more as we draw closer to the summer. But what do we think next season's looking like? Like, is it going to be part of me thinks Liverpool with the right acquisitions have another gear to go. Could they be the new City?
well, the thing is, I think
But
Spurs and United have a lifeline with the Europa League. Like, I think if either of them win the Europa League, that's a huge boost heading into next season instantly. A lot of money coming in and back in the Champions League. Um, I think with City's an odd one. It's like, where are we trying to go with City in terms of, like, do they need a totally new rebuild? Do they only need to change a few players? Like, what's their objective now? I'd probably err on the side of, like, it might be Pep Guardiola's time to hit the haze, like with City, and just start a new chapter. Um,
do you think he does start a new chapter just before we pull you on this killing? Do you think he is that him done? Like, do you think he just sails into the sun, or does he take a national team? Like, I don't see, like, where does he go? Like,
I don't know, but I just think, like, the way that City squad is now, it's such a mix of, like, they've got a few young players, a lot of old heads. It might just be time to just, like, close that chapter. I don't know. Do I see Arsenal closing the gap? Probably not. So, like, I think Liverpool are in a good place to go for two in a row. Personally,
what are you saying, Killian?
Well, I had been saying that up until his contract extension that Pep was going to be gone. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was to leave. And
It'd
if,
have to be him walking, though. It would have to be.
yeah, no,
They're not going to
it'd be
bin
him,
him, like,
and it would him having to appoint a successor.
or at least be seen to. Yeah.
Yeah. I think with their overall, they are kind of in a rebuild. But I think it really comes down to what manager they're going to have, because I don't think you're going to have somebody like Pep is kind of becoming a little bit of a tinkerer this season. Like, there's a lot more kind of like moving things about and trying things out.
Games. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's trying to reaffirm his algorithm. But like, I think for him it'd be good to go. and take his 2 years. I think this is the longest spell of football he's done ever, probably. And he nor like even when you consider him as a player and his drugs bans or um his lost weekends in Mexico or whatever, like he's always kind of taken time away from the press, and he would probably do well for himself to take 2 years out and then maybe come back with a national team job, or I don't know, maybe Serie A.
See, my only thing with the national team is I think it fits perfectly, but you know as well as I do, most of the time a national job is the end of the road job. You don't go back to club after that.
Only thing with him though is he's so revered that he could if he wanted, but more importantly, he could kind of like what Klopp was kind of doing at Red Bull. He could just go on to the international.
It's funny you say that because you read my brain with that. That's where I was kind of leading this too. Like that's. I just think he'd be bored silly doing that.
But you could imagine City basically doing like a Ralph Ragnick with him. The City group kind of going, listen, yeah, go on.
Do what you
want to
want.
lead Spain?
Yeah.
Go off and lead Spain for 4 years. Still be a consultant for us. But when you're done there, we want you to come in as like, we will put you at the head of New York City FC for a year and just steer them through this. And we need an interim manager. Well, then you're our interim manager. And you get to do whatever the fuck you want, wherever the fuck you want. And oh yeah, we're considering buying a club in Spain. Who should we buy?
Yeah, just being their guy. That kind of point. Guy. Yeah, just ask him what he wants to do and let him do it, type thing.
Yeah, and I think that they would get great value out of him, and he'd get great value out of them. Plus, he's the type of guy you can imagine going and doing a masters and stuff, and it'll be on global football club development, how to do it and break the game and ruin the entertainment of football for everybody.
Well, speaking of good value, there is not much better value than our sponsor of this week's episode, DS Business Solutions.
It's not just your squad that needs smart transfers. Your office setup could use one too. DS Business Solutions is the all-rounder you've been looking for. They'll sort your printing, streamline your document management, and keep your IT running like a well-drilled back four. So whether you're a one-man team or managing a growing squad, let DS bring some structure to your game plan. Visit DocSolLimited.com, that's DocSollTD.com, and make the smart signing your business needs.
Well, lads, smart signings, I think the club that can probably stand there and say that they've made some of the smartest signings in the last few seasons is none other than Wrexham. I know
Big Jimmy Mac.
I know people will say he's past it, and I'm sure in the UK that his chanting at the end of their promotional tour didn't go down well, but you got to give it to them. Even from a financial point of view, the club was bought for 2.5 million 4 years ago, and they're valued at 150 million quid. They've 3 promotions on the bounce, a Disney series that has the world wrapped around its finger. What are your thoughts on them, firstly, lads? And a two-part to that: do you think this journey can keep going to the Prem?
I don't see why not. It can go to the Prem. Like they're clearly heavily backed. They're putting their money where their mouth is. Like, is it the fairy tale story that I think it's made out to be? Probably not. Like they are heavily backed and have been since they were in League Two and below. So I think it's a cool story, and it's one to watch, and it makes good television. Am I following them every week to see how they're getting along? No, so it's not that engaging for me. But yeah, fair play to them for doing what they're doing.
I don't know about you, Killian, but I'm very relieved that I didn't buy any of that Wrexham gear. That is so tasty now that they are potentially going to be. They're at least, at worst case scenario, they're going to be your rivals next year, and then worst case scenario for me, they could be my rivals in a year's time. But where do you stand on the Wrexham thing? You know, I know there's been a lot of talk in the league about across the leagues every season that they've got promoted, they've got been accused of buying the league and just throwing money at the problem. But where do you land on it?
Well, having supported a club in League One, um, they bought the National League, they bought League Two, they've earned League One because the players that they have, when you look at them, some of them may be on high wages, but they're it's not exactly a team of superstars. Like as I said at the start, Jamie Mack. Yeah, this isn't James McLean of the Premier League era. This is James McLean on the decline and borderline banter era. But
But
he's
also,
exactly what
he
they
was
needed.
never a superstar anyway. Like, you know,
No,
he's big in this country, but he's not. You know,
but the thing about him in that team was yeah, he was a good player. He wasn't a standout. He's had some standout moments, but it's more about the dressing room and the kind of leadership. And as we always said with him for uh, club and country, he wears his heart on his sleeve and he goes for it. And I think that's exactly what Wrexham needed. Like I think when they signed Ben Foster for that whatever it was 2 weeks, that I think that was part of their logic of that was to kind of bring somebody in that can kind of steer this hapdash group. Like there was a lot of players in that team that were kind of rebuilding themselves as well as youngsters. Like look at Owen O'Connell. Like he's kind of working his way back up the leagues,
yeah.
and it's been fantastic for him. And I don't see why he can't be a championship squad member, worst case scenario, if not a starter as he is now. But like the League One and the Championship are very, very, very difficult leagues. League One can be very sticky because you have so little money. Um, so it's not like they've splashed the cash in these mad transfer fees. They've given them higher wages. But what I like about them in the modern sense of they may not be fairy tale, but they're doing things sustainably. It's not like they're just like with Birmingham, 15 million for a striker in League One. Like what the
But do
hell?
you?
I think the previous record was 3.5 million.
I totally agree with you. But do you think now they're? I suppose there's two sides to this kind of point. A, do you think they'll have to do that now that they're in the championship? And B, can they afford to do that? Like we all know how much
But
money that.
see, this is the thing. It's earned money. That's the difference. They've spent 4 years putting the building blocks and grown sponsorships and grown interest and grown, as you say, with lovely kits, their revenue bases. So whatever happens now, the club is actually earning it and maybe topped up with owner money. It's not like a City of 2009 where it's just like, I have all this money in my pocket, here you go.
Yeah, I did
Football
see
doesn't
something
work like that anymore.
I did see something like the revenues are, you know, around 35 mil a year, which, you know, you're looking at.
I think when we went down to League One, I think something was bought for 35 or 40 million.
Yeah, that really does put it in perspective,
So
doesn't it?
let's come on. Like they have done things in a very, very sustainable way that most other rich owners haven't. Sunderland's newest owner has, which is great. But again, they are the exception to prove the rule, you know? Like that's like when you see like look at Reading. They're falling through the leagues because of owners that promised money. Birmingham, like they've literally bought the league. Like how anybody can justify spending what is reportedly up to £20 million for one player in a league where the previous record signing was 3.5 million, which Sunderland broke. And when Sunderland broke that, I think they broke it by over 1 million. Like this is you literally probably could have bought another team in League One for the amount of money they spent on one player.
It's
But then people
wild.
try to say to Wrexham, oh well, you're only buying your success.
Well, to slightly fact check
No.
myself there, the annual turnover since the two boys took him over has gone from 2.5 mil a year to 26.7 mil a year. And let's not forget they've sponsorship deals with TikTok, United Airlines, Expedia, the Disney piece, a huge merch side of the business. You know, it may be unfair how they got those sponsors through the fame of their owners, but I mean that's just par for the course, you know.
Well, see, this is the thing, and like because they have more eyes on them, I think it's an easier excuse to throw at them. Whereas people aren't doing the same outside of League One and maybe like Championship fans are with Birmingham. The general populace, because they've heard of Wrexham now and have watched Wrexham, they're not doing it. Whereas it's just factually incorrect. It'd be like saying, oh, the Premier League is only about money because Arsenal spent 100 million. Yeah, but then when you look at the bottom end of the table, 100 million on rights, but then you look at the bottom end of the table and the max they're spending on any one player is 10 or 15. Like, you can't just just because you have this assumption, it doesn't mean it's reality.
Yeah.
And the thing with Wrexham as well is they are good for the league, not just publicity wise, but like it's spreading out the love again. Like it's another Welsh team to kind of prove their worth and go up against the English in the league. Especially, I think is it Cardiff has dropped down the leagues now.
Yeah, I
I know
think so.
there's been a few kind of protests at the owner Vincent Tan, who famously made them their Blues jerseys red and changed their logo and all that. So he's under pressure now again. So it's good to still have two big Welsh teams at all times.
Well,
it's kind of like one of the rules.
I must say, Cardiff are having a bad old go in the sports kind of sphere at the moment, between the football team going downhill and the rugby team going bust. You know, it does, I suppose, show you the reality of sports in a smaller country like Wales compared to England. You know, I mean, I think that's something that you have to remember with this Wrexham story, that they've pulled. It's not just like they've been an English team and pulled off something impossible. It's a very small town, you know, in Wales, where so much was up against them. You know, even if you really have to look back at the players who bought in. You know, your Elliot Lees, your Paul Mullins, your Ollie Palmers. Like, I know they went for money, and maybe they just got lucky in the fact that it actually worked out for them. But I do think some of them saw the vision there. Or do you think they just saw the two lads and said, yeah, I want a bit of that, and if it goes to pot, I'm getting paid well anyway?
I think all of it. Like, we've seen these situations go to pot before. Look at Sol Campbell and Sven
Oh, at Notts
at Notts
County.
County.
Yeah.
Like, these things a big name can draw you in and it can still go wrong. But I think it was a no lose situation for the players. They were either going to get paid, or they'd get a move anyway. But no matter what, they're going to be associated with a celebrity. So whilst the cynics amongst us, and usually I am the first one at that altar, will kind of just throw that at them. Ultimately, a lot of the lads took a chance, and the owners took a chance on a lot of them as well. Let's not forget,
well, that is true. True, they threw like unusually large sums. This, and I don't mean they bought, like, kind of broke the rules by any means, but for the caliber of player, they overspent. But I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of their signings, you know, I think Sean Harvey has to be given a lot of credit for this. Sean Harvey, you know, has been around football for a lot of years, and I don't know how he ended up at Wrexham, who made that connection, but let's not forget, he was the director of football that identified these players. He's the one that identified Phil Parkinson as manager, who has been their manager through all of those promotions, which he is even more
who was
rare.
sacked by Sunderland.
Was he?
Yeah, he failed at Sunderland when we were in League One.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was very, very good a few years ago at Bradford City, and won what is now the Papa John's Trophy, I think, or had been. And he went to Sunderland. We were kind of thought, okay, not the man to get us to the Premier League, but he might get us up the league, and it just didn't work out for him. And then I think we ended up with Lee Johnson after him, which again didn't work out. And then we got Alex Neil, former club captain and manager of our friends at Hamilton. Like it's there's a lot of credit due, more so than the cynics would like to admit, and less so than the media machine behind Reynolds and
McElhenney.
McElhaney
Yeah.
would have you believe. But like they've done things pretty right. They took chances. Like we've seen people spend money and it not work out. It was kind of calculatedly spent. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like we saw it with City with their initial billionaire takeover with the Thai owner
Oh
spending lots of money
yeah.
and it just not working out. Like these things happen.
Back in the
Um,
Rubinho days, or was that? Or are we even going further
no,
back?
Rubinho was the current owner.
Oh,
But
Rubinho was the
before
first big
then,
one of the current owner. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. But like when they were signing like Benjani for 9 million,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you now.
which at that time was big money. Or
Huge money
even
at the
look at
time.
QPR, like to get to the Premier League. And ultimately, what Wrexham have done is they've paid more money to get up to the leagues quicker because they realise that doing it quickly and getting riding the wave of attention would earn them a lot more money. And if they can keep the back to back to back, I reckon it's going to slow down now in the Championship, and
But
they can afford it to.
but if
Now,
that's totally fine. They could do 5 years in the championship, and that
yeah,
is not a fail. You know.
no, absolutely. From a footballing sense, it would only make sense that they'd end up around that long. But from their plan and their built up around the myth that now is, and the say like the documentary series, they kind of have to do it in 2 years. But the thing is, if that doesn't work out, well, that's the reality of football, and people are now bought in enough. Whereas if they had got stuck in League Two, the attention would have waned very
Then it
quickly.
dwindles, and then you're also there comes a point where if you're a TikTok or an Expedia, they're going, okay, lads, this was a nice experiment, but we actually have bigger sponsorship opportunities, and we're going to go
We're
that
just
way.
going to very quietly let this lapse and move on.
Yeah,
And like, don't forget, I know we keep going back to Birmingham and the money that they spend on one player. They're backed by Tom Brady. It's like this is another celebrity style endorsement, and instead of trying to sustainably grow and build on things, it's throw money at it. And yeah, it worked for League One. Okay, it's only League One.
yeah.
Like you are shooting your shot very early, and ultimately, even if they did get promoted, what's this going to mean for the financial rules now that they've
We see that,
blown a lot very quickly?
and this is where I think you know all of these clubs who are in flux, with say the likes of Burnley going up, who also have a celebrity owner in JJ Watt, albeit a minority owner. You've got Birmingham, you've got Wrexham. They're now in such financial polar opposites, and they're really going to have their ducks in a row to not start trundling down the leagues again. Like I think the key thing with the two lads in Wrexham is that they very much said we are not football guys, but they are business guys. So they leave all the football decisions to the football people, and they take care along with their CEO and kind of Humphrey Kerr and those advisors. And I think that's got to be the way it's going to continue, because if they start getting involved in the football pieces now, they're too far up in the football football pyramid to mess around.
If they haven't done it by now, they're not going to do it because, as you say, they're businessmen, and a businessman's not going to start playing games at the opportunity where he has the most to lose.
Well, you look at
If they wanted to play Football Manager, they could have done that in the National League, and nobody would have really noticed, and it would have been absolutely fine. They didn't.
you look at someone like Ryan Reynolds, and think of him what you will, and obviously there's a lot of press going around him and his wife off the back of that movie. But you look at the companies that he's been involved with, scaled and sold. He's not a stooge. You also look at him, Rob McElhenney. Nearly called him Robert. Jesus, who am I? His mother.
Oh.
And like he has countless series of network television that he produces with his own company, writes and stars in. Like, I mean, yes, you're talking entertainment, not football, but these guys are serious operators in their field, and it seems to have translated. And I think
And they went into this with their eyes open. Like
that
McElhenney
100%.
watched Sunderland till I die and wanted to buy Sunderland, knowing that that's not going to be a possibility. He went looking lower down. He's like, okay, yes, I could take over this club and maintain what they're doing. But if I want to get into the Premier League, which is what I want to do, I need superstar money. And he went and got Reynolds.
Yeah.
Like,
But he also
these are
got money with the right personality, though. You know, it wasn't some like he could have got private equity easily.
Sort of, but like the thing about it was he identified the kind of person and the kind of budget that he needed while they were in the National League.
Yeah.
Like, this is not these are lads that are thinking 3, 4, 5 steps ahead rather than what's the immediate problem in front of them, in a good way. Like, they can handle what's in front of them, but also they're thinking long term. So I think they deserve a lot of credit. And yeah, like, I think it's gonna be exciting if Sunderland is facing them in the league next year. I think it'll be exciting. I may have to go over to Wales for a match at the
I'd be down for that. I absolutely will be.
It would be great. And yeah, like, I think in a world where we're seeing a lot more multi millionaires and billionaires buying teams, these are the least of all evils in that sense.
Do you think, not to dwell on Wrexham for too long, hopefully we'll now have a pocket of fans in Wales, but do you think they'll go down a fundraising route akin to what Alpine did and, you know, sell 10% of the club to the biggest names they can find in order to be competitive, you know? Or do they even need it?
I wouldn't say they necessarily need it, but I think more to the point, I don't think they'd do it for success. I think they would do it if it's the right person. Like, I don't think they're just going to go and find the nearest billionaire that I'm sure they have on
speed dial.
Yeah. Speed dial. Yeah. But I'm sure if it was the right person that was kind of like, okay, Robin, Ryan, and who? I think that's the way they treat it. It's like, are you going to be one of us? We don't want your money. We want you and your enthusiasm, because like McElhenney brought Reynolds in initially for the money, but he knew him well enough, and he was very much aware of his business acumen, because you can't not be. He, as you say, he could have went for somebody else. So they have enough to get them established.
But if they want to kick onto the Prem, they need it.
If they want to kick onto the Prem, I don't know if they need it, because who knows what kind of sponsorship things they're going to be able to do then. But they'll definitely have offers, and I think that's more important. That when they're at a point of being able to pick and choose, well, then that's a much better position to be in than having to.
Well, they've set their station in the fact that, you know, they want to own this club till they're in the ground, and they've sung that from high up. So, you know, I don't see them going anywhere, but I hope their desire to keep the ownership of the team doesn't get in the way of its success, from a point of view of, it is one thing, like the championship is, like we said, to get there, incredible. If they're there for 5 years, I really don't see that as a problem. But if they're to kick on to the Prem straight off the back of that, they need an injection of cash. Like we've seen that with the 3 clubs that went up this year and the 3 clubs that went up last year that went straight down. And they're seasoned clubs. You know, they have been.
Well, let's not forget with Ipswich, that was kind of a pretty surprising promotion and welcome one. So I don't think Ipswich would see the relegation as a
that was a free season.
Failure.
That was a free season for Ipswich, and I think they'll only grow from it as a club. I think Kieran McKenna will only grow as a coach. You know, that was a gimme year. You know.
Yeah, it was like when Daniel Farke got Norwich up that first time, and he kept kind of doing the bounces. Like the second time coming back,
or
it's
Luton.
like, okay, now, or even Burnley under Dyche went down with them, brought them back up, and it's like, okay, now if you go back down, now it's a failure. I think Ipswich kind of have that in the bank. So, like, for the likes of a Wrexham, they're going to be coming into a very, very competitive league now. As I know, being a Sunderland fan, we're there, and we could still be there. Who knows? Hopefully not. But the team's going down. The Wrexham aren't going to be able to walk it.
But that's what I'm curious. Like, say Wrexham Ipswich, that's going to be very interesting to see. That'll show you the level they're at.
Well, let's also not forget, like, they haven't had a massive amount of squad turnover since League Two.
Yeah.
So, like, they are due a year off, basically. Get in, get established, but they're also now in a position where players are going to want to play for them because of the profile and not have to charge them a lot of
Yeah,
money.
and they don't have to pay the Wrexham
And
tax anymore.
exactly.
Yeah.
And if they want to, they can and get somebody bigger. But you're going to have a lot of these guys that are either rebuilding their careers or are very, very good championship players that know they're not good enough. Like, take it to White Gale, but
I was thinking
slightly
I was
lesser.
thinking like not him, but like a Patrick Bamford.
Yeah, but that kind of a player where it's like you're very good in the championship, you're not good enough for the Premier League
But you're good enough
in the
for
teams
us.
you've been in.
Yeah.
But if he went into Wrexham, he'd be amazing,
Yeah.
and he can kind of be like, oh well, I can be in Wrexham or I could be in name a championship team. Well, I might as well be in Wrexham.
Get the personal brand side of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can take the same wage I've been on for the past 3 years, but I'm gonna have 10, 20, 30 times the size of my Instagram following, which will allow me to make money outside of football. So I might as well do that and take the initial cut on my weekly wage. So they're going to be in a position where, while they're consolidating themselves in the championship, that they're not going to have to actually break the bank.
The ruthless side of this as well is there's a lot of players that have got them to this point that won't be required anymore because they're not at the level needed. You know, like I know the series which I love, and I do love the story of Wrexham. You know, a lot, like your Ollie Palmers, your Elliot Lees, your Paul Mullins, they're going nowhere. Even if they were slightly off it, they're I suppose characters now. But there's a lot of fringe players there that'll probably have given everything and
Well, I
won't be
think the
kept
likes
on.
of a Paul Mullen could actually leave the club, and it would be good for everybody because you can imagine him going to a lower MLS team, having an okay last year or two because the man just seems to be perpetually getting himself injured. So I can't see him playing till 35 or anything
Yeah.
like that. So go out there where your stock is probably higher than it is in the UK.
Do you think he'd get a
Like,
contract over there?
if not in the MLS, maybe the NASL,
Yeah, see,
the kind of second
I
one,
think you're better,
and get paid good
I
money.
think you're better being crocked injured half the time and play half the season for Wrexham than doing that, though. You know.
But is it better to go out there while your stock is high before you get forgotten about by the Americans? Go out as a celebrity signing.
I just don't know if he has that pull right now. I think if he gets a good year in the championship, he could.
He was the Welsh Deadpool.
And he was on the cover
Like,
of
he's not gonna
GQ. Yeah.
yeah, he's not going to have a he's not going to have a good season in the championship. Like, they're seeing it in League One. He's already tapering off. Like, he's never performed higher than League One, and even then, before this season, he only did it once.
Paul, if you're listening, we love you. But
Oh, like, great guy. He seems to be an absolute legend. But go out and make your bank now in a way that's going to actually long term keep you good. Like, who's to say that the Rob and Ryan don't actually go and buy an NASL club and just say, here, Paul, go out and
front
be our
that,
marquee
yeah,
player.
that like I
Yeah.
mean that isn't. That's actually a very interesting show because I know they're involved in a team in Mexico, I think it is, with Eva Longoria. So like they are
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the I can't remember the name of them. We'll come back to that one, but yeah, they're diversifying their football portfolio. Now they're minor owners in that team as opposed to majority owners, but it it's not what I actually thought of, but it's kind of an obvious one, isn't it? The only thing is, I think they'd be better placed, and I'm not saying this just for the optics of it. I think in terms of the storytelling element was if they bought a women's soccer team in the States. There could be a great story built off that.
Yeah, and the fact that I think it's Angel City FC,
Yeah.
which I think is attached to LAFC. They have a load of, is it Natalie Portman?
Yeah,
Is
there's a
one
lot of
owners?
female
Serena
celeb owners,
Williams.
yeah, in the
Yeah.
US now.
And then the LAFC had a load of celebrity owners as well. Will Ferrell, I think, owned part of them. I'm just after looking it up there. Rob and Ryan have a Colombian team.
Colombian, okay.
So they are backed a group led by Al Tylis and Sam Porter. Sam Porter being an executive at Club Nexica, who Rob and Ryan are minority owners in,
That's
with
why I
Eva
was thinking
Longoria, Kate
Mexico.
Upson,
Okay, yeah.
and Mesut Ozil.
Oh,
He also owns part of that. But the investment group have 99% ownership of a team in the top division in Colombia. So they are building up a portfolio. So who's to say that they don't
expand further.
or start inserting some of their stars from the series. And suddenly do they put James McLean into Colombia and then sell that to the Colombian version of Netflix or whatever.
You know what the easiest thing to do is buy Derry, get Jimmy over here, and we've got a nice League of Ireland series to add to the Disney suite.
It would be absolutely incredible. But like I think that's what we're going to see with some of the kind of the stalwarts and, as you say, the characters in the series. I think they're going to be given glorified golden handshakes where possible. But you mentioned it; they've been ruthless business wise as and when needed, and I think they've listened to football people before, and I don't think they're going to have a nostalgia that will leave them chained to the floor of the championship if they can help it.
They may not have a nostalgia, but we will always have a nostalgia for football, and we look forward to chatting more about it with many more episodes to come. As always, thank you to Nate and Killian, and to our sponsor, DS Business Solutions. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Messi.